Alrighty, good evening, everyone. So a little bit different tonight. Instead of a fireside chat with Marshall, I actually have the pleasure of talking to the head of marketing. And I'm sure you guys have seen him in chat. And I wanted to really introduce him tonight and talk a little bit about himself, why he came into the project, and a little bit for what his plans are. So Brian, thank you very much for joining me tonight, and welcome to a chat.
All right, man. It's my pleasure. I'm excited to be here.
Definitely. So to get kind of more of an idea of yourself and where you're coming from, I know a lot of people have seen Marshall and even myself, but what's your kind of a crypto story, or how did you really get into this market?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I mean, it's funny because I love asking that question to people too, because everybody's story is a little bit different. I started getting into, I'd heard of Bitcoin for, probably started hearing the term 2012 in that range, but just thought digital money. Well, we already have digital money. Like my Wells Fargo account's digital money, right? Because I can move money from one checking account to another. So that's what I brushed it off as back then, not understanding it. 2013, listened to a few podcasts, a few people talking about it, kind of grasped the technology a little bit, and really wanted to go out and buy Bitcoin right away. It was just one of those things, I'm going to do it. But I told myself I need to have some discipline because I really like to pull the trigger on things like that. And I said, I want to learn about this for 6 months. I'm going to take 6 months to learn about it. So at the very beginning of 2014, was when I actually bought my first Bitcoins. I think the price of when I bought in, I think it was like 225 or something like that. So in hindsight, that's my claim to fame, which is funny because it's like people were getting it, people got Bitcoins when it was nothing and stuff. But my friends all think that's the coolest thing ever because to them, that's so early. But you talk to people that were getting in at $10 a piece. And it's just, as the market goes on, I still think the people that got in at $5,000 a piece, they're going to have that glory story someday of I got in when it was 5,000. So even the people getting in now, I think you're going to get to have that little bit of a, oh yeah, this is when I got in kind of thing. But 2014 to 2016, kind of paid attention to the market, got a little bit more interested in it as the halving was kind of coming up. The Bitcoin halving was something that was just like really intriguing to me. I knew about the supply, and that was one of the selling points of Bitcoin and kind of cryptos is that you could fix the supply and fix the inflation and stuff like that. But anyways, that was kind of my introduction to it. Then, really didn't mess around with the alts, kind of stuck to the bigger alts like Ethereum and Litecoin and that sort of thing. And then in the 2017 market, when everybody, profits were high and stuff like that, it's like, why not take a little bit and delve into other projects and look around and research projects. And then it got to like where a lot of people did. It's like the research on the projects kind of fell to the wayside, and I would start to jump into projects just because of market cap and speculation. And then I realized that wasn't a good strategy, even though the market was going up and was making money on cryptos. And I said, you know what? I really want to focus on some projects that have good vision. And so at that time, I was intrigued by Embercoin, and I bought some Embercoin. We won't go into that too much, but when they were kind of looking to do some moves within their project. And you're very familiar with that project. And then that project became Atheneum. And when I first heard, now this is kind of like this is like almost like talking poorly about myself here. When I first heard that the community had voted to go the education use case, it took me like maybe 15 or 30 minutes to say, that's a great idea. And I actually kind of look back on that a little shamefully because now when it's amazing. I mean, education is the perfect use case for blockchain. I mean, it's one of the big three to me. To me, the big three use cases for blockchain, there's going to be a lot of use cases, but the big three problems I think we're going to solve is Bitcoin and coins like that are going to solve financial problems. I think that three-party financial systems is a mess, and that's why Bitcoin was created. I think politics, political voting and transparency in politics is going to be a big problem that's solved. And there's projects out there like Civic and some other ones that are trying to solve that problem. And then I think education is right up there with those three. I think in terms of importance to society, Atheneum's that kind of problem. So I kind of look back shamefully that I was disappointed that it wasn't like a quote unquote sexier use case or something like that when I first heard, education, because education, like I remember school was boring. But when you think about what we can do for society and what a platform, a free market can do for this and blockchain being a solution to things, specifically three-party problems, man, after about thinking about it for about 30 minutes, I was just sold. And so the downside was, man, how many people are we going to have to tell about this and have them think about it for at least 30 minutes until they can grasp how amazing this concept is? Because a 2-minute elevator pitch isn't going to sell people on Atheneum. We need people to really understand what this thing can do. And I know that's been one of your passions with this project. I know we've talked and you've said, you know what, how do we get people to grasp how amazing of a potential we have here to kind of change things, to make things better. I know in the last Fireside Chat, Marshall was talking a lot about how we're not aiming to disrupt. I mean, a lot of the crypto community is talking about how do we disrupt the status quo? Well, we don't want to disrupt in the traditional sense, but we want to disrupt in terms of how do we make things better? How can we come alongside and disrupt broken parts of education and make things better? So we don't want to disrupt the institutional paradigm altogether, but we want to make that paradigm better. We want to play our part in making education more accessible. So very exciting. And so that's where I am today. And as far as the crypto journey, and it's been pretty fun.
Yeah, it's a lot to actually kind of almost unpack there, because that brief little bit, and there's so many little things that I hope people kind of touch on. First is, it's really fascinating, everyone in our team, when they came into the space, because it seems like we have people from all different of the years, I would say, that are really big.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really met anyone quite yet from like the early days, but the fact that they come in around 2014, 2015, and so on. And me and Marshall a little later than that. But I think what's fascinating is you've gotten to see it grow, and the fact that even in the beginning, the value was going higher, and you still took time to dedicate to double check the research.
Mm-hmm.
That's again fascinating, because it's just, I think that's one of the things that people are going to have to learn, is you got to have that discipline to double check. And now that you're coming on board with all these ideas and excitement, and like the big three that you just touched on, I really like that, mainly because there's so much noise right now, and so many projects that are trying to quote unquote solve maybe part of the big three, but in reality, I don't think there's actually that many that are really trying to do it. And
right,
the education aspect is so fascinating to me, kind of like we're doing right now. Yeah, it's a chat, but at the same time, I'm learning something about you that I didn't know, and I just learned something about the space that actually intrigued my interest. And I think that right there is where education is shifting, is coming back to that kind of communal talking. And that is what I like about our project so much, why I'm excited. Now, as far as you coming into the marketing play, that's a real big question I'm sure a lot of people are going to have. I know that from our chats that marketing is kind of what you do as your job currently, but why did you choose to take on the role within the project itself?
So my first kind of introduction to the project, and I'll get into my credentials in a second, but when I was following the project and I saw that it was this interesting community dynamic. I mean, you've been a part of the project for longer than I have. And so you've seen the community, you've seen the ebbs and flows of the community, but it was very intriguing to me that from the time that I first learned about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general, I got to be a part of this space somehow. I mean, there's these pivot points in history that you get to ride the wave, and some people are fortunate enough to live in those times of human history to ride those waves, that all sorts of tech innovations, the industrial revolutions, there's certain times that you can be born that enables you to be a part of that. And we're fortunate enough to be able to be a part of that. And now with Atheneum specifically, I was able to be intrigued in a project that had a community that anybody could access. You didn't have to be somebody that could, code and program to be a part of the conversation about the problem that needs to be solved. We have coders, we have developers, and we have those people solving that end of the problem, but we also needed idea people. And so I talked to Marshall and I talked to a few other people in the community, and they vetted me a little bit. And I said, you know what, I'd love to help marketing. I've been doing marketing for a little over a decade now. And Marshall said, okay, I'd like to see what you have. I want you to write up a branding strategy for Atheneum. I want you to write up a branding guideline for us. And so I wrote a branding guideline in terms of palettes and fonts and typefaces and the voice and the kind of what you would build into a business model, what your brand would look like. And so apparently I did an okay enough job that Marshall said, okay, you can become a part of the project. And so I kind of came under his wing, because he was at that time kind of undefined, but the head of marketing, but he was also kind of doing the CEO role. That's why he's doing the CEO role now, but he was kind of CEO and head of marketing at the time. But as he officially stepped into CEO, he needed somebody that had some marketing chops. And I know we have some people in the community, but I think at that time you had just gotten some, other job things that were going on and stuff. So you weren't able to devote all that time. And I think you are fully capable of doing this job. I think that's why we have such a good working relationship, and we're going to do a lot of great things in marketing together. But Marshall asked me, he said, hey, you know what, Marcus, it can be a part of it, but I want you guys to kind of work together, and maybe you take the lead a little bit, Brian. And, but he obviously asked me my background, and I have, 11 years in marketing and branding. My emphasis, I have a degree in human behavioral science. So it's more of kind of like the human dynamic side of things. A lot of the marketing that I've done in the past is like subconscious marketing. So it's very kind of intriguing. And that led into, I've had my degree for about 12 years. And when I got my degree, social media was kind of just emerging as old as that makes me sound. Facebook was just kind of on the rise. And so I got to ride that wave of learning Facebook strategy and Twitter strategy and all these types of things. But I've consulted for a handful of businesses while they've done startups. I've consulted for some other businesses as they've tried to grow their branding and marketing strategies along the way. So I also own my own a small chain of stores myself. And so I wear a bunch of different hats in that business. But the thing that I like to do the most, and the reason why those businesses have been successful, is because of an ability to market and again, speak a voice to what we do. And I think that's the number one thing I tell people in marketing or in sales is, if you don't believe in what you're a part of, go to something else. Don't try to market something that you don't believe in. And I know that's why you love this project. That's why I love this project. I mean, when you talk to Marshall, that guy just oozes enthusiasm for this project. And even people like that don't have the marketing out in front of you roles of the project, but guys like Joel, who's our chief strategist, and you have guys like Chris, who's the CTO, the tech people, and these guys are passionate about the project because they're solving a problem and they know they have the ability to make people's lives better through it. So that's why it's easy to market. And I actually choose not to do marketing roles if they're things that I don't believe in. So maybe that doesn't make me a good marketer, because I think the true marketer could probably market anything. But I think what I'm good at is marketing things that I believe in. And so that's why I really like being on board with Atheneum.
Yeah, you at the same time, you also got to be able to connect to what you're branding. And I think that adds to a lot of the ability of making the project successful, whether it be us or any company in the world. And yeah, what's funny is, to be honest, only since the last, I would say maybe 10 months or so, have I really gotten excited about, the actual project, to the point where, I've been part of, Embercoin, Charts, all that for so long. And I stuck with it for so long because it got to a point where I had invested a lot of my time and money into the project. So I just kind of wanted to just, double, triple the money at that point and just get out. I was kind of getting frustrated, and I just wanted to see the profits and go.
Mm-hmm.
However, that mindset's completely changed. And I think that's the same with your and Marshall, where I really couldn't care less how much I have of the token or the coin for this project.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more interested in the fact that, I struggled with education as a kid. And, even to this day, I learn very differently than the average person. I teach myself a lot of things because the way I need to be taught is a little different than the average person. And the fact that we now have the ability to do that for anyone around the world, I think is phenomenal. And I think the fact that we have so many people dedicate to that overall mission, that alone is what I think will, progress us forward and forward. And every time, each one of these meetings, whether it be you, Marshall, and I hope to get more, it just gives you more excitement, just lights that fire a little bit better. And I hope everyone else always understands that again, you might not see it on the surface, but things are always happening in the background, whether it be, like you said, the branding page, or even to this day, the little things, little meetings, things are still happening. And, as we progress forward, I think we're coming together as a team much, much more efficiently than I thought we would have. And I'm really excited to have you on board, and I really look forward to working with you, further. And I think we got a lot of great things. And hopefully with the next couple of weeks, we can get Marshall and a few other people in here and do kind of a real big, group session. Because I would love to.
That'd be cool. That'd be a lot of fun. Do a little round table.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And I've discussed that, and I'm sure a lot of people in the community would love that, because I'm all about not only the community, but I like to understand the people behind the project.
Mm-hmm.
You can read a LinkedIn, you can read, they graduated from Harvard, this and that. Those are, valid credentials. But at the same time, I like that human element. And kind of like you with your degree, the community, I think, is where we're headed back to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really, really curious in how that's going to go. And so I'm excited for our journey, and I really look forward
Absolutely.
to it. Sure.
Yeah, there's a lot to be excited about. And, before we get off, I mean, there was kind of a little tease to drop. We had a great, I know when you and I were talking earlier today, I said, hey, I'm in a team meeting right now. So we had a core team meeting, which core team is just kind of like it's Chris, CTO, chief strategist, Marshall, the CEO. And then we have a new guy, Tyler, who's helping in the kind of financial department. And so we were talking a lot about strategy and really kind of some of the moves that we're going to make in terms of parts of the market that we're going to be cornering, and you're going to be excited. I'll fill you in on it a little bit more here later, but there's some really exciting. I think there's two really exciting announcements. There's one announcement I'm sure Marshall's going to drop on us pretty soon about a partnership with another blockchain. And I think the synergy that can happen between two communities can have an exponential factor. I mean, what is that? I can't think of the law, Metcalfe's law about network expansion and exponential growth. It's the ability that the network effect is more than just two communities making, 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. 1 + 1 has an exponential effect when you're talking about networking. And so we have a great partnership coming up, hopefully to be announced soon, with another blockchain project, and then some market strategy that is really going to, in a very short period of time, ramp up the utility pretty significantly for AIM, for the Atheneum's native coin. So again, just to be excited, not in terms of the investment side of things, but to be excited about building a product, a platform that's going to be a legacy thing. I think you and I have talked about that, Marcus, that it's like, why are you a part of this? We both said, yeah, we've invested in the coin. So, but there's a lot of projects we've invested in. What we want to be a part of is building something that is a legacy thing, something that we could tell our kids, you know what, I was a part of that. I helped to build that. And, that thing that changed the way we do things, we were there and we were a part of that. So I think, and that's the cool thing when it's a community project, just by being a part of the community, the people watching this video are a part of that and a part of changing that. So it's really cool. It's, like I said, a really unique point of human history to be a part of, to be born at a time where we have the ability to be placed right here. Pretty cool. So
Couldn't have said it better. Yeah, I mean, really couldn't be a better time. And I look forward to those announcements. I'm sure everyone else does. But something you really just said before we head out is the partnership, and that's something that's kind of fascinating as well. I know, mainly because a company doesn't need to eat all of its competition to succeed. Like, I know that's kind of been the model for a pretty long time, whether it be, Google, Apple. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure more of like a symbiotic relationship between partnerships is a much better direction. Yeah, the profitability might not be immediate, but there's a lot of things that we can't necessarily do that other blockchains might be able to, and vice versa. And I think that's going to be fascinating. So really appreciate the time. And like I said, these chats are great, and I look forward to the next one for sure.
Absolutely, buddy. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
And everyone out there watching, doesn't really matter how many people are. The more people that watch, leave comments. The more people I know that are watching these that want to see certain things, I'll do my best to make that happen. And if we can hear from the community, hear what you guys want us to discuss or reveal, we'll do our best. That's the best way to move forward. And I didn't want to be one of these people on video, but definitely likes, comments, the whole sharing thing. That definitely would help us out, only because it helps share the video and helps share the message to everyone. So with that, have a good night. And Brian, I'll definitely see you in Discord and chat.
All right, man.